everybody. Welcome to the Right or Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Right or Die Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. All right. Hello. So I'm all like all over the place this morning, but that's okay because I'm sure lots of you can relate to that. So on that note, let's welcome our guest for today. Hello.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Where are you joining us from?
I live in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay. I am very geographically inept, so I actually don't know exactly where Minnesota is, but that's okay.
That is the Midwest, right smack in the middle of the United States.
Okay. See, that I can picture.
Yes. We're the one where it's winter for like 6 months out of the year.
Ew, that's gross. Like, I live in Canada and I don't even have that much winter.
Yeah, it's a problem sometimes. And we like to think we're very good at handling winter, but we're not.
So what you're telling me is that is one of the places to add to my never move to list.
It's beautiful in the summer. Like right now, fall. Oh, it's gorgeous.
I didn't say to never visit, just never move, right? I could visit when it's nice.
Yeah, right. August, September, gorgeous.
Okay, so that'll be on the to visit list, but not on the to move list.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, hi, I'm Randi-lee Hall. I am the author of 3 books, including The Patient Routine, which is a horror book that came out in June from Bridget's Gate Press, and it revolves around a non-binary person who is going through a series of panic attacks, and they choose to check into the emergency room, and everything kind of spirals from there, and it deals heavily with the body and queerness and adapting to changes to your mental health and the struggles that happen from that.
Okay, so that's what you do. But who are you? And first, before you answer that, is that a puppy that I can hear in the background?
I have 2 dogs, and they specifically love to play while I'm recording things, so I'm sure you'll hear them.
And what kind of puppies are they? This is the most important part, like, obviously.
Yes. I have my older dog. He is almost 5. His name is Yoshi, and he is a beagle mix.
I have a beagle mix.
Yeah, he's. I have no clue what he's mixed with, but I'm convinced it's like a deer maybe, because he has very, very long legs.
Oh, mine is very, very short.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like smaller than your average beagle.
Yeah, Yoshi is gangly, to say the least. And then my other puppy she's 1. Her name is Sylvie, and she is a pit terrier mix.
I have a 1-year-old puppy too. Well, I guess he's almost 2. Like in a month and a half, he'll be 2. Yeah. That's the important part of who you are. But I guess I'll let you answer the rest of who you are. But obviously, you're a puppy lover, so.
Yeah, I'm a puppy lover, author. I am identify as trans, non-binary. This question's always very hard for me. I never know where to. Those are my identifiers: puppy lover, trans, non-binary, author. I'm an editor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And apparently, you like to, what's the word I'm looking for? Subject yourself to lots and lots of winter.
And yes, I do. I do love it for a few weeks.
And I don't love it at all. Like 0. Don't worry. That is literally the hardest question of the entire episode.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, I know. It's very hard when you're questioning. I feel like I'm a person who's constantly questioning and confirming who I am. So I think that's definitely a hard one to answer sometimes.
Yes. But just remember from now on, anytime you're asked that question, puppy lover.
Yes.
Because that's never gonna change,
Yeah,
right?
no, totally.
That is always a constant. So you're good on that one.
Yeah, I should probably put the puppies on my website. That'll probably draw more attention.
It totally would. In fact, my puppies and my kitties, I also have kitties, they have their own TikTok.
Oh.
So yeah, and they have like a lot more followers.
Yeah, I'm sure. I post my puppies often on social media, and they definitely get a lot more traction than I do. So I agree.
Exactly, which is why you always need to mention them.
Yes.
Yes, always. Well, I mean, I could talk about puppies all day, but I guess we should talk about the topic of the day, which is, of course, mental health. So, what mental health are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I would love to talk about OCD. I think that's specifically because of my book, The Patient Routine. And I suffer from this too, but the character, it manifests in a very health anxiety type of way with a lot of compulsions that include like checking the body and seeking reassurance from medical professionals and Googling, a lot of these things pop up for me. So that's my topic that I picked, I guess.
Which is a good one because we don't have that many guests on the show that I've talked about. I mean, we have had a few in the past, and I love having the different mental health, conversations so that we can help a wider array of individuals. So first and foremost, I mean, we say OCD, but for those who don't know what that stands for, it stands for obsessive compulsive disorder. And I guess I will read the definition because for those of you who aren't actually watching the video, which I mean, I don't know why you're not, but so the definition, I tend to go to the Mayo Clinic to get them. That way, that they're like reliable resources. There we go.
Yeah, the Mayo Clinic's in Minnesota, actually.
Oh, there you go. So maybe it is a good place to visit only. So OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is a pattern of unwanted thoughts or fears, which is the obsessions that lead to repetitive behaviors, which is the compulsions. They interfere with daily activities and cause significant distress. I had to take the word significant out only because I didn't have enough characters, but in their actual definition, it does say significant distress. So that is the official kind of description of it. But what is it for you?
Yeah, so like I said, for me, it manifests a lot in health anxiety. So for me personally, I tend to get obsessed with a certain illness or disease. And then to be perfectly honest, I've been going through a bit of an episode in the last few weeks where I was convinced I had a brain tumor, and I always laugh when I say these things because it seems very silly from the outside, where it's like I had a headache, a simple headache, and that kind of spirals into brain tumor and I'm going to die tomorrow. So those are that's the obsessive thoughts. And then as I mentioned, the compulsions come from, checking the spot. So I'll rub my forehead as if I could feel the brain tumor somewhere in there. So that's an example. A lot of body checking, a lot of feeling compelled to Google symptoms, Google
Dr. Google is the worst. I mean, I'm not saying I don't do it. I totally 100% go on there. But it is the worst. So for those listening, if you can avoid Googling it for yourself.
Yes, don't follow what I do. That's just how it happens.
No, which is good. And I'm just bringing it up because it was funny. I was at my chiropractor probably last year. It was probably last year we had this conversation because I've got a lot of back issues. And of course, I'm Googling everything related to them. And so I'm telling him this and he goes, stop. He just looks me dead in the stop it. And I'm like, I know that I shouldn't, but I just need to do that. So I mean, I don't have, well, as far as I know, I've never been diagnosed with OCD, so I'm not going to say that, but I understand the wanting to Google because it's the want of answers for me anyways. It's I need to know. And at least here, because I'm in Canada, our healthcare system sucks. So I can't like just go and get tests done. It's really frustrating. So I go to Dr. Google.
Yeah, no, healthcare sucks in the United States too. So I definitely get that. I've worked really hard to overcome a lot of challenges that I've had with OCD, and I've worked really hard on managing symptoms. No matter what I do, those like things aren't going to go away per se. But I'm in a much better place where I'm not Googling often. I do get in some spirals where I do kind of go down those routes. And I think that, in terms of the book that I wrote, I think that's kind of the worst possible scenario for me. Like obviously it kind of goes into darker, because it's a horror book for sure, horror thriller.
I love me some horror.
Yeah, so it definitely goes into those elements, but it's definitely, I thought of my worst times and kind of put that to the page. So there are obviously, with a lot of mental health, there's like levels of severity, where now I'm managing it fairly well. But yeah, it's definitely a daily distress for me. Luckily, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so when did you first notice it?
Yeah, I would say probably around like 19. So I'm 31. So it's been over a decade that I've worked with it.
Okay.
Originally, I had gone to a doctor, and I was like, hey, I have a lot of I have a racing heart, I have chest pain, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just anxiety. It's just a generalized anxiety disorder. You're fine. Like, maybe we can put you on meds, etc. And I was like, no. It's like, not that that's not severe in and of itself.
But that wasn't what you were dealing with.
Yeah, no, it was definitely like, no, like I can't stop thinking about my chest. Like my entire life is just, okay, what's this feeling like? What's this feeling like? What's this feeling like? That feels different. And going from there. So it's been 12, 13 years that I've worked on it. I didn't get formally diagnosed until probably 5 years ago, when I started going to a very specific therapist that is very good with OCD and health anxiety.
Yes. And so I think that's a really good point, is that sometimes we expect, and I'm going to say we because I'm thinking of my mother and my aunts in this, is we expect the doctor, just our general family practitioner, to be able to give us these answers.
Yes.
But there's a reason they are general practitioners, and there's a reason they're specialists. So, I mean, even when I was looking to be diagnosed with, I guess, different things, but I had to find the specialist so that they knew what it was I was talking about. So for me, I mean, I'll just talk about the autism one, because when you're getting diagnosed with it at a later age, it's even more difficult. And so I really needed to find somebody who understood it in adults, to understand why I was talking the way I was talking, or what I was saying. So I think it's really important that you don't give up. If you feel like, you would like an answer, or you're suspecting an answer, kind of got to advocate for yourself and look for somebody who is specialized in that field, whether it be autism or, like for you, the health anxiety, the OCD, and find somebody who will take what you're saying, understand it in the context of their specialty. And maybe it comes back and they're like, no, that's not what you have, because I have a specialty in it. But at least then you know for certain, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely, that is an amazing point. Because I had gone to a few therapists, a few doctors, and kind of, as I said, kind of got those very general diagnoses, and then finally, and I think it's also being honest with yourself about what you're experiencing. I think that was a challenge for me, definitely in the beginning, because I was like, oh, I'm like, these are normal thoughts. These are very, very normal.
Oh, I used to think that about my thoughts too. And then I started asking my husband, I was like, so do you like have thoughts all the time? He was like, what are you talking about? I'm like all the time. He's like, you mean your brain doesn't go quiet? I'm like, no. Why? Yours does? He's like, no, never. I'm like, oh. And then just other things. I'd start asking him questions, because then I started questioning, do other people do the same thing as me? So I started asking him, and he's like, I love you, but you're nuts.
Yeah. It's kind of similar, where I started to question, especially because of the health anxiety. I would start to get really concerned with like like very normal bodily functions, like how your eyes kind of blur out things on this, like your periphery, because you're focused on one thing. Like that's just how eyes work. And I would, I'd be constantly asking my partner at the time, just like, can you see this? Like, can you see this? Like in perfect, like, do you have blurry vision here and here and here? So I definitely, I get that too. It's hard for loved ones, I'm sure, to understand sometimes, especially, it sounds like in the case of yours, where they don't have some of those. I think a lot of people who are, neurodivergent are able to relate, but there are people who are just totally without their mental health challenges. So
bless those people.
I've never understood it. I think my dad's like that, where he's just like, I don't get it. He's really understanding, but he just is like, I don't get it.
Right, exactly. It took my mom a long time too to like understand what I was saying, because she's like, I just don't get it. And it's not that she was trying to be mean about it or tell me that it wasn't happening. She just could not understand what it was. Like, it just was not processing.
Yeah, totally. And my mom, she was very much like, well, yeah, I get stressed sometimes. Like, life is stressful. And I was like, and after I had come to terms with a lot of things, and I had been, kind of rekindled that relationship with my parents after a while, I think she realized that she's had a lot of challenges in her life too, but she just kind of chalked it up to like, that's life. Life is stressful. I have 4 kids. I have to pay mortgage.
Oof, 4 kids.
Stressful.
I think it also has a lot to do with the different generations and how we're now talking about things more, right? Like my mom's generation, my grandma's generation, they didn't talk about these things. So it wasn't always to say that they didn't happen. It was that they didn't know they were happening, like that they were, a mental health issue. But they just had other things to worry about at the time. Like for my grandma, she had to worry about, raising 5 kids on her own. For other people, they had to worry about their spouse going off to war. Like there was just other things. So it was, like you were saying, you just chalk it up to life is stressful. But there is, now that we're talking about it, there is things that we can do to take some of that stressfulness away.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely, I get what you're saying. It's like, these things have always existed in human history. It's just that now we are given the luxury of working on and making life better for the people who would suffer from them, I guess.
Exactly. We're not sticking them in like mental asylums and forgetting about them.
That's true. Not until people bring those back. I've heard whispers of that from certain people.
Yeah. There's no one right answer, I'm gonna say, because for some people having a facility, and I'm not gonna say like the old school archaic mental institutions, but for some people having a place where they can be with someone all the time that is specialized to help them is not a bad thing. And we definitely need more places to give that kind of help. So And like my kid, he went to a treatment place, and I could talk about it because he lets me. I like to say that because people are like, it's not your story.
Yeah.
But in grade 7, he went and he lived for 3 months. He came home on the weekends, but he lived there for 3 months to get the help that he needed at the time. So I'm not per se against places. But the archaic, we put them in, we forget them about them, and shock therapy and lobotomies and all that. That one maybe not so much.
Yes. No, totally agree with you there.
So okay, let's go back. You noticed some issues when you were around 19, so you've been dealing with it for over a decade. When and you went to a specialist to actually get some help. So what have you found is some of the most helpful techniques for dealing with it?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that helped me was getting really in tune with my body. I think that was a big thing that I completely ignored during when I was growing up and through a lot of my early adult years, is that I was just not listening to my body at all. And I think that was one of the biggest things that my therapist and I talked about. We're really learning about my body. I was very much like, I don't know how any of this works, the whole body. But I don't know how any of this functions.
Yeah.
So I think learning about the body and really focusing on like exploring, I guess, in some terms, who I am and who my body is. And I think that led to a lot of other things as well. But, I think that's definitely the biggest one. There's a lot of like reverting attention away from the obsessions. I think that's the key thing. I think, I feel like a lot of similar techniques to a lot of anxious feelings where, self-soothing and, I feel like really for me, it's been a journey of learning of my body and kind of knowing, like I said, kind of knowing the ins and outs of my body and where I'm actually in pain and not faking. I don't want to say faking it, but I think there's a lot of pain that manifests in non-real, like, ways that aren't true to an actual ailment. So I think really coming to terms.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say there. It's like, well, and this is the struggle I'm having with my fibromyalgia diagnosis, where it's nobody knows what causes that, and some doctors don't think it's even a real thing because it's basically we looked for everything else, we couldn't find nothing, right? So it's that, okay, so am I making it up? Am I not? Which I'm definitely not. But it's, coming to terms, I think, with understanding, like you said, understanding your body, how much, for me, right, in this case, it's how much can I do before the pain hits or whatever, and how much breaks in between. So I kind of understand where you're going with that, by figuring out your body and figuring out, what is real pain caused by a physical ailment and the pain caused by my anxiety or stress about it.
Yes, that is worded much better than I was putting it. Yeah, I think
sometimes I get there.
It's a fine line. I think because obviously anxiety manifests in a way that is very real, and can be very painful and very stressful and discomforting. But I think that is the biggest key for me, to just know the difference between that and I don't always succeed. I definitely have moments where I still struggle with that, especially when I get into a really bad episode. But for the most part, I think that one main thing has done wonders for me. Among, a lot, like I was saying, like a lot of self-soothing, a lot of redirecting, a lot of just understanding.
So let's talk about self-soothing for a sec. Then we're going to talk about The redirecting. What is self-soothing for people who don't know, who haven't heard that before?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's things that are calming, things that are, feel good to the five senses, things that are.
So do you have an example of something that you might do?
Yeah. So one of my go-to self-soothings is taking a bath, a warm bath with a candle. So I think that hits a lot of my five senses with the lights off, very calm atmosphere. I can smell something. I can feel something. I can hear the running water. So those things are very good for me. That's kind of my go-to. I do exercising. That's another self-soothing technique for me.
What kind of exercise do you like? Because on the show, I'm always talking about how there's not one type of way. So what kind do you like to do?
It kind of depends on the day. I do a lot of walks. I do a lot of workouts at home. I have a trampoline at home that a workout trampoline that I use. I do a lot of stretching and yoga. So yeah, I have a variety of exercising.
Yes, which exactly is the point I always make on the show is there's not one way to do it. There's lots of ways. You just got to figure out which one you like doing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So redirecting, I keep having to redirect my attention back to the conversation because I hear the cute little squeaky toy going. So what is redirecting?
Yeah, so for me, it's generally focused. So if I have an obsession, say I have a scab on my leg, and I am noticing that I am starting to check it or think about it more often, I will redirect thoughts away from that, either physically or, sorry, my dog is very playful right now, clearly. My dog is redirecting my thoughts from this podcast to her. She's saying, come on, pay attention to me.
Puppy. This is why I am not in the same room as my puppies, because they are the same way.
Yeah, I would love to have them just free roaming right now, but they since the windows have been open because it's fall, they have been going bananas with people walking outside.
Oh my goodness, I know so I have 3 dogs. 2 of them go absolutely freaking nuts. The one I'm trying to teach, I'm trying to teach both of them not to, but the one jumps at the window and he's 90 pounds. I'm like, dude, you're going to break my window. Like, get off.
Yeah.
Ugh, but they're just so darn cute.
They are so cute, and I just don't want to, I want to just let them have fun.
Right, I know, it's what I would like, but if they're gonna break my window, then
yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Yeah, my dogs are only like 45 pounds, so they might be able to take it out together.
Yeah, there you go. 1, 2, 3, charge.
Yeah, but yeah,
okay. So redirecting back.
Yeah, for me, it's really taking, when I start to notice an obsessive thought, taking that and pushing, directing it towards something else, whether that be writing, whether that be watching, again, it could be directing toward the self-soothing technique. It could be an activity. It could be, thinking of something else. It's really broad. For me, generally, it's checking in with my body. So I'll kind of go through some techniques of am I breathing? Is my breathing consistent? How is my heartbeat? Kind of going through my body, a list in my head of things to check in with, to redirect away from the current obsession.
Oh, okay. And I think breathing is a really big one. Breathing is something that we've talked a lot about on this show too, because it's a really good technique dealing with, I guess, OCD, but dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, dealing with a lot of different things, is that I think it has a lot to do, and this is just from talking to lots of people, right? You are redirecting because you're thinking about it, but also when you start thinking about it and you start breathing more slowly, right? When you start to actually take a full deep breath, you're getting more oxygen into your body.
Yeah.
And oxygen's a great thing. We need that to live, right? So that's going to be helpful as well. And then when you are thinking about it, you're feeling it. You're talking about the senses. You're feeling that breath. You're feeling your chest, your stomach, everything kind of rise and then kind of sink back in. So it's definitely a really big one that's been talked about. And I think that those that scoff at it, which I was one of those way back in the day, because you're like breathing, I breathe every day. But to stop when you stop and think about how you're doing it, it makes a really big difference.
Yeah, and I fully agree. For me, the thing that took me so long to kind of get to that point of being able to like agree with you and be like, yeah, totally, like I agree, is that I would focus too much on breathing, and then that would become the obsession, and that would become part of the compulsions of, that would be the, I gotta breathe, like I gotta check my breathing.
Yeah, and that actually did not occur to me, that because I don't deal with OCD, but that makes a lot of sense that you're redirecting, but now you're also redirecting the compulsion.
Yeah. So that's kind of the tricky thing about specifically my type of OCD, is that a lot of techniques are very, sense-based, and those are specifically the things generally that are the obsessions, is stuff with my body. So, breathing, yoga was really hard for a long time because it was a lot of silence and being really like in tune with the body. And I was like, oh, I can feel things that I've never felt before, and they're bad.
Whoops. Yeah.
So like now I breathing is a big technique for me to kind of calm down a lot of the times. But it's definitely a challenge to keep away the thoughts of like, all right, don't let this spiral. Like, you are breathing in a very normal, calming way, and not in a, oh, I need to make sure I don't have lung cancer or something.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so, what would you tell somebody who is listening right now and maybe thinking, hey, I've tried to talk to my doctor about OCD, but they're not listening to me, but I think that maybe it's a thing. What's your piece of wisdom for them?
Gosh. I mean, I guess keep trying. I mean, I think that's like, again, I needed to find that specialist who was really in tune with specifically health, anxiety, OCD. And I think that was the thing, is that like, if you truly believe that you have OCD in a lot of ways, and a lot of people, I think OCD gets ragged on a lot.
Yes.
By people who are like, oh yeah, I checked the door, or like, I'm very OCD about this. And I think that's why it gets pushed away a lot in the health medical field. But I think if you are truly, you truly believe that you have symptoms of OCD, yeah, keep trying, keep seeking out another opinion, keep, go to that specialist who's more in tune with this, and see like what they think. But again, believe in yourself. Like, if you're experiencing something, you are experiencing something, even if people are telling you you're not. I think that was one of the big things with my health anxiety, where it's like, I know I'm experiencing chest pain and I am freaking out about it, and they're like, well, we did an EKG, like, you're fine. Like,
yes.
well, I think that's another big thing too. So, keep trying, be, persevere, but also kind of, going back, really trusting your body.
Yes, all very, very good pieces of wisdom. I always like to call them wisdom because I always tell people don't give advice. So I've changed the way I word the question. Okay, so let's talk about what you've written. So you say you've written 3 books, but it sounds like you're really promoting the patient routine. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you kind of mentioned it, but let's talk about how it's horror.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'll kind of do a backtracking. So the patient routine follows Ashton. They're a non-binary college student, and they have experiencing a severe panic episode related to health anxiety, and they decide to check into the emergency room, and while they are in the emergency room, the hospital goes under lockdown because the patient comes in that has a mysterious disease. So that's the the cliffhanger there for the rest of the book. And yeah, it they are in a very severe episode of health anxiety, and the book very much plays structurally and story-wise into very OCD tendencies, a lot of repetition, a lot of staggered jumping thoughts. It's a novella in verse, so I play into a lot of poetic elements. That's kind of my background, is poetry. Those are my other two books.
Oh, that was my first book, was poetry, and quite a few of my other ones have at least one or two in them. So
oh yeah, I love poetry. That will forever be my first love.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I think poetry offers a lot structurally to kind of feed into anxious thoughts and feed into obsessions and compulsions and get that on the page in a way that prose sometimes can't. So I think that those are the primary things. As in terms of horror, obviously, since it is a health anxiety book, a lot of it manifests in body horror. Ashton is not kind to their body, and their body is not kind to them. It also, there's some potentially paranormal elements, potentially zombie elements. You know, I've had a lot of people say a lot of different things about what they think is happening.
Okay. I was like, potentially, aren't you the author? What? But now I understand.
Yes. Yeah. No. I mean, I know what happened in it, but I appreciate people saying what they experienced while they were reading it too. I think that's really a good thing, to have a reader kind of, you know, jump in and be like, well, it could have been this, it could have been that. And I think because it deals with mental health so much, and Ashton is an incredibly unreliable narrator, and there are other, you know, their anxiety is a character. The anxiety is a character in the story, and they are also, in terms of, you know, they're not narrating, but they're egging on Ashton in certain ways, and they are manipulating Ashton in certain ways. Vice versa. I think Ashton is using their anxiety as a tool to get what they want sometimes, and you know, I think that dynamic is very interesting, and was super fun to write. But I think at the end of the day, it's very much a book about a lot of the things that I've been talking about, which is, you know, body acceptance. You know, I think acceptance and coming to terms with knowing yourself is a big component of the overall story.
Yes. Oh, well, that sounds very fun. Like I said, I love all things horror. So it sounds pretty exciting. So where do people get it?
Yep, it's available everywhere books are sold: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Bookshop, Half Price Books, Books A Million, everywhere. You can also go to my website, lunarayhall.com. I do have some signed copies still that you can purchase from my website. But otherwise, yeah, it's everywhere.
Excellent. Loving that. And where do people follow you? Are you on some social media?
I am on pretty much every social media under the sun: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter /X.
Right,
Threads,
change the
TikTok,
name of it. That's right.
Yeah, Tumblr, Blue Sky, everything. It's at Luna Ray Hall. It's just my name. And again, you can also go to my website, lunarayhall.com, and that has links to all of my poems, all of my books, all of my social medias, all of my events, etc.
Excellent. Wonderful. Is there any last words that you wanted to share before we say goodbye?
No, just thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Excellent.
I love talking about mental health. It's so fun.
Right, exactly. As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media because we have some great new shows coming up and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye!